Hello, dear listeners. October is World Mental Health Month. And at Teenacity Talks, we want to take this opportunity to help our friends feel hopeful by sharing information and awareness about the stigma of mental health. If your body image is a significant cause of stress, or if you're being bullied about how your body looks, you're in the right place. Because today we're going to debunk some myths regarding why teens are becoming increasingly dissatisfied about their appearance. Something that's leading them to increased risk taking behaviors, social anxiety, panic disorders, low self esteem, and depressive symptoms. At Tenacity, our endeavor is to extend support and create a more inclusive culture where people feel empowered to say, I am who I am, and be happy in their bodies. Have you ever found yourself saying, I wish I looked like that? Or heard a girlfriend saying, I'm too skinny or too chubby to get into the dress? Or someone from the boys' ward engage in excessive exercise and use of performance enhancing substances to bulk up? Well, it's all because of our dear friend body image. And helping us deconstruct this term today is Miss Niyatii N Shah, a dedicated and respected sexuality educator, counselor, author, and intimacy coach. Her commitment to empowering young minds with the right education and fostering positive body images in teenagers is truly remarkable. In 2013, she founded Avity, an educational platform that has empowered individuals of all ages. With over 300 workshops in 45 Indian schools, she has made a significant impact on numerous children and their families. Delighted to welcome you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Adhiveer, for having me here and you taking this topic ahead as a teenager. It means a lot. And when your own friends are going to listen to this, I hope I can add my few insights. So thank you once again for giving me this opportunity.
Great, ma'am. Thank you so much. It's my pleasure having you here. So, shall we begin by delving right into the subject? Could you please explain to our listeners what body image is and shed some light on why it remains a prominent concern among teenagers today?
So simply put, body image basically refers to the way a person sees himself or herself, basically perceives and feels about their own body, the way they look, their size, their shape, basically the physical attributes. So it also includes, their self-esteem, their self-confidence, and overall the self-worth in relation to their body. So body image can be also, it can be influenced by all the beauty standards that are set
Right,
by the society for us. So that is what body image basically means, like how we
right.
see our body and how we perceive it.
Right. That explains why body image is very important because obviously it's linked to the, as you mentioned, one's self-worth, one's self-esteem, and of course one's physical health and state of being. But sadly, feeling miserable about one's own body is so normal in our culture and is so normal in our day-to-day lives. I mean, boys or girls, they don't just wake up one day and choose to dislike their bodies. And it's often the culture around us that teaches us these feelings of feeling uncomfortable with our own body. So, ma'am, could you please share your thoughts on what, according to you, are some of the common factors that contribute to negative body image in teens today? Especially in today's age where social media and pop culture hugely impact their perceptions of their own bodies and what these beauty standards are.
Yeah. So, Adivir, what happens? First, it all starts at home, all right? While we talk about the society and how the society is kind of like putting out the standards for us, whether it's through magazines or advertisements or even Bollywood movies, but it all begins at home first. So it is important to understand that when parents speak about, eat less, look at how you've become, or why don't you put this cream so that you look a little fairer. So it all begins there. So before the child even goes out into the society, it is more inside the home where it all begins. So
Right.
when they've already tasted this in the homes, so the belief system also starts there. For a child, nobody is more important and nobody is bigger than their parents. The God also comes later. So if
Yeah.
mom has said something, that is it. So when a parent
Right.
themselves say this to the child, it already is set in. And that
Definitely.
validation the society gives. Then the society also says that, your figure has to be a certain number, your waist has to be a certain number, your weight has to be a certain number, your
Right.
complexion has to be a certain number again. We have the
Yeah.
skin chart and everything. So it just becomes like, oh, my mom and dad also said the same thing. And now the society is also saying the same thing. So this is exactly how I need to be. This is the basic and the biggest factor that is, affecting our teenagers. And even then later on, even as adults at this age also, when we know that this is not what it is, my skin does not need to be like perfect and a certain complexion, but still we are still applying the creams and the sunscreens. And even when we are going for vacations, it's become like that. Oh, if
Yeah.
you want to go for a vacation after 3 months, start working on your body from
Yeah.
now. That your pictures are
Insta worthy.
Insta worthy. So yeah, it starts from home, and then the society kind of validates it.
Yeah, definitely, ma'am. I think, it's these fleeting comments that you hear from your friends and family that really stick with you. And it's these little things that then almost shape us to a rubric of sorts that if you don't
Yeah.
abide by, you won't be accepted. And, this obviously, for teenagers especially, as their first point of reference is, of course, their parents, but their second point of reference is always social media and, sharing things with their friends. And it can be really
Yeah.
hard to avoid falling into the trap where you start comparing yourselves to others, whether that be your friends or whether they be these celebrities or models or influencers. And I was reading somewhere in there in this survey, and it talked about body image with regard to social media. And it also said that people with higher usage of platforms like Facebook and Instagram and, going through these posts, they increase the risk of developing eating disorders like anorexia. And
Yes.
not only that, but trying to conform to these societal beauty norms can cause these teenagers, and I've seen peers around me do so as well. At
Yes.
this age, if you're a boy, you're a teenager, you're in high school, you're in college, you want to look ripped, you want to look muscular, you want to have those toned abs. And because of that, you use creatine or these sort of pills or
Yes.
supplements, or you can go to extreme levels of dieting, whether if that's before a vacation or before the summer. You
True.
tend to go to these extremes, which can be very risky to your own health. And especially when you're seeking out these unregulated procedures, it can be very dangerous and it has significant health risks. And teenagers, of course, not well versed with these, and it's more of an impulsive thing for them to opt for these options.
Yeah.
So, I think that it's very important to understand the myths around body image, which then
Yes.
brings me to my next question, which is what, according to you, are the most common misconceptions about body images out there? And if you could debunk them for our listeners.
Sure, sure. So the first thing, we all know that only when you are thin, you're beautiful. You very rightly said that there are so many other health issues which relate to having thin bodies. We
Right.
know of children, you've used the right terminologies, but I'll just break it down to layman language,
Yeah.
that when young girls and boys eat their food and they put in fingers just to vomit it all out so that, the fat or the salt is not absorbed in their body. So many different things these teenagers are doing just to remain that thinner number, the thin body. So it is not true that thin means beautiful. So even chubby people are beautiful, even a little heavier people are beautiful. Your outer body does not define beauty. Beauty is different for different people. So if you're going to only work on your outer body, but not work on your healthy mind or healthy within, your nature, or how kind you are, or compassionate you are, or how empathetic you are. So if those things are not in place, but you're just thin, but irritated and mean, and,
Yeah.
then that's not beautiful at all. You may
Yeah.
be thin, but then you're not beautiful. So thin does not mean that you're beautiful to begin with. Beautiful can mean so many different things to so many different people. So that's the first myth. Second, I could say that there is no perfect number that your body measurements need to be. So you could, like another one we always know from Bollywood movies is 36, 24, 36. But that is not the only number that makes you, perfect. You
Yeah.
could be anybody. You could have any measurements. Okay, there is this concept where there is something called geometric shape. So
Right.
when certain things are in proportion, they look good.
Yes,
When
symmetry.
certain things are, symmetry. So when certain symmetries are not in place, we call them not very beautiful, or then we give meaner words like ugly. So I understand where we are coming from, but when we are dealing with people and when we are talking about people's mental health or how people see themselves, when we
Right.
say that you have to be these numbers, then we are putting people who don't have those numbers, they go into a big spiral of negativity. So there is no perfect number to a perfect body. You can still be a little on the heavier side and still look sexy, feel sexy. It's all about the attitude that you carry. So
Yeah.
that's another misconception. One more myth, if I have to add, is social media. You had mentioned earlier Instagram and Facebook, and where people are using camera tricks, using
Yeah.
light tricks, and using so many different filters to look a certain way. And
Right.
whatever you see in social media is not
Is
real
not.
life.
Yeah.
It is, it's like Bollywood made into mini screens and now put it out there. People have learned how to show themselves so that somebody else likes them. we know the conditioning is already there. So when you validate that same conditioning again and again, it stays real, but it actually isn't. So when we will look around and we see our own family members, we will know that that is not how all the women in your family or all the men in your family look like. So social media is not real life. People are manipulating. People are using tricks to look a certain way. So please do not rely on social media to feel beautiful. That is how I can put it, right? So just be aware about the real life also. It also does not mean that you can stay fat and then say, but I'm beautiful. Fat is a symptom of something not okay in your body.
Right.
So if you have the extra fat from what your nutritionist tells you or your doctor tells you or certain those numbers, that there is something called overweight, there is something called cholesterol, there is something called obesity. So do not be unhealthy, but still think of yourself like, okay, I am good. I'm going to accept myself and I'm still beautiful. You are. But it does not mean you're healthy.
Right.
So do not confuse beautiful and healthy together.
Definitely.
The beautiful outside and the beautiful inside.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, ma'am. And in fact, your last point really resonated well, because at the end of the day, it's all about self-realization, right? Body image is all about your own perception of self. And you need to understand yourself to the extent that you know till when you're healthy until when you're getting unhealthy, whether that be on the skinny side or the heavier side. There are extremes to each end, and we need to be wary of that. So definitely, I agree with you. And your point about social media as well, because I know, being a part of this generation that's grown up with Instagram and Facebook and Twitter and all that, and we go through so many posts, reels, and every time we see a celebrity with a beach body with six-pack abs, we start doubting ourselves and we start thinking, I'm not good enough. Why don't I look like that? Why don't I have these abs? Why don't I have these muscles? And then all of a sudden you look at yourself and you have this false epiphany, I'd like to say, where you feel embarrassed about yourself because of looking at someone else. Whereas you need to realize that you can't compare yourself with others, because at the end of the day, everyone's built different, right? And these ideal bodies that we think of are not one size fits all. For girls, it's always the pressure to be skinny. For guys, it's about being tall and handsome and having broad shoulders. But we really need to shrug off these notions that there is one particular type of body that is socially accepted or that is ideal. And we need to feel a lot more confident looking the way we are. And if we're not, we need to start working towards looking the way we are, whether you abide by these norms of Hollywood, the same actors cast who look the same way. You don't necessarily need to look like that to feel good. Unfortunately, though, these ideas of there being ideals in societies about looking a certain way, they really get into our head, and then that starts stressing us out, that starts causing anxiety, and it may lead to feelings of depression. So, ma'am, I'd really like it if you could tell us what you can do when you feel like this so you can handle this negativity better.
I think one, it is important to first recognize that you are going through something that is not healthy for you. So it is important to understand that if I'm constantly feeling that I am fat, or I am thin, you know that you need to get out of that spiral, right? You have to go and look for some help who can give you some understanding of, if your height is a certain, feet and inches, then what is your proportionate body weight, how your ankles can still hold all the weight. So you have to understand from a very scientific point of view rather than a body image point of view. So that is one thing I think anybody should be able to get that information from. So educate yourself. That is what I mean. So one is educate yourself. Secondly, to come out of this, start talking to somebody who can give you exactly what you need to do to feel not only good about yourself, but to have realistic goals. So self-acceptance, for example. So self-acceptance is not going to come just because my mom is going to tell me, or if I'm going to tell my daughter, you know what, you are just beautiful the way you are. It's somewhere just kind of like conflicting with what she believes in. There are a lot of therapies and a lot of simple, activities and exercises that you can do at home with your family where you can shift your mindset.
Yeah.
So learn how to accept yourself. You have to learn it. You have to learn what I can do on an everyday basis where I don't go into this spiral mode. This education is, needed, and this understanding is needed. The expectation that, okay, probably I will exercise. I will make sure that I will play my games. I will make sure that at least 1 hour a day, I'm doing some physical activity. It could be dancing. It could be playing, anything.
Yeah.
But I am going to be healthy. And I will do my regular checks with my doctor who's going to keep me in check. So that is something you can do. Another most important thing that even I do for sometimes is talk to yourself.
Right.
This is a very simple trick I have realized over the years. There is this small voice, inside our head that talks to us. So when it says that, oh God, I'm not looking nice. immediately you can shift and say, you think like that. I don't think like that. You can literally talk to your own self as if you're a second person. Avoid people who put you down.
Yeah.
Avoid people who, say constantly make fun of you or constantly tell you, but it's important to lose weight, but it's important to gain weight. Keep them at an arm's length and just tell
Right.
them, I know you mean well, but thank you. And then move out from there. So there are a
Right.
lot of different things. Be very mindful about your nutrition, about the water you drink, about the sleep you have, because this age, a lot of things are happening to the preteens and the teens.
Yeah.
So you have to be very, very mindful that I am going to do the best for this body. Take informed decisions. If I have to put it in a nutshell, take informed decisions and be in good space,
Makes sense,
good
ma'am.
people around you.
So, ma'am, two things you mentioned here really stuck with me. First, being, of course, the importance of being well informed. Because if you do not know what the requirements for, say, diet or of an exercise regime for your age or, some physical condition you have are, then it's obviously unrealistic to have these ideals in your mind. And the second thing being, staying around people who prop you up rather than drag you down. Research has shown that parents have a huge, huge influence on their kids' body image, and they can impact them directly with their comments, as you mentioned, and
Yes,
indirectly, through the parents' own eating habits. Because children
yes.
and teenagers, they're going to grow up the way they see people around them, the way they see their family. So, what role can friends and family members play? And what can they do rather if they notice a teenager they care about struggling with body image issues? And how can these other stakeholders provide support without making the situation worse?
I think this is a very important question because as adults, we ourselves are struggling with our own body images. So if we don't realize that we being in the negative space is also putting our children in the negative space, we will not be able to make a difference in their lives. We will not be able to raise them, with a
Yeah.
healthy mindset, with a healthy body image, the positivity that we are looking for, but we are not able to provide to them. I will talk about family differently and friends differently because of
Sure.
the age group,
Sure, ma'am.
that there are two different age groups. So
Yeah.
if it is parents and grandparents and uncles and aunties in the house, one, you have to understand that you have to be the role model. You have to do what you are expecting your children to do. If you're telling them go down and play, then they should see you going down and doing some physical activity.
Yeah.
If you're going to tell them brush twice a day, then you should be brushing your teeth twice a day. So be the role model that you want your children to be. So show it to them. So I do this one very simple exercise where we prove that none of us, whether it's children or adults, we are listening to anybody. We watch and we learn. There was a
Right.
very interesting WhatsApp video also where an adult is doing some activity or some action and the child is just watching them and learning.
And yeah.
Whether it's smoking behind them or taking, there were different things and it stuck with me. I said, this is so true. So first and foremost, you have to be the role model for them so that they can watch you and then learn.
Definitely.
Another thing is what we do as parents is in case if we are in good space, we are teaching them to be in good space, but then there are friends who are teasing them and who are not accepting them in a group or bullying them. So rather than saying, ignore it, let it be, you don't go there, you don't talk to them, rather than defending the child, teach them how to deal with this in real life situations. Role model it out with them at home. So, okay, what if so-and-so person said this to you again? So usually bullies are somebody who will repeat their action, So what will you say now? How
Right.
is your body language going to be? So repeat after me. Tell them, though I am great the way I am. And tell your child to repeat it. Because, when we advise somebody, they might not know exactly what needs to be done about it or how to do that. So it is very important with children to have those role plays. So get them into the role play
Makes sense.
and teach them like, okay, whenever this happens, you do this.
Yeah.
Then also play, games like what if. So what if you can't handle the situation? So identify who are those three adults in the school you can go and seek help from. Who's your counselor? Who's your favorite teacher you feel comfortable with? Ask your child to write down those names where the child does not have to sit and think at that moment. He just knows these are the three people I need to go to. So
Right.
the first person, okay, maybe that person was absent today. Who's the next best person I can go and talk to?
Yeah.
Now, these people cannot be your friends who probably don't know how to deal with these situations themselves. So go to
Right.
somebody who's an adult who can take you out from that situation. So do all these real life situational role plays where they learn and they understand that if I am in a situation, this is what I need to do.
Right.
right? So please don't lecture them. Take them to a therapist if need be. Take them to the right experts who can help them with building that acceptance towards themselves and then handling the situation back at school or college or wherever they are.
Makes
Sometimes
sense.
it's in the family itself. So if
Yeah.
one parent is, dealing with a situation, the other one can definitely help. So
Yeah.
don't get stuck there.
Definitely, ma'am. And I think, all these learnings, they all come from experience. Because I remember I had a couple of friends who were bullied about, say, their height or their weight. But then gradually they learned to sort of shun this outside noise and just focus on themselves. And at the end of the
Yes,
day, the people who are, this is something my friend told me and it really stuck with me. And she said that people who are trying to drag you down are already beneath you. So you don't really need to care
exactly.
what they say. Yeah. And you
That's so
should
well said.
yeah.
Yeah,
And you should stick with the people who prop you up. You mentioned therapists and counselors. And I think after friends and family, therapists and counselors are the ones who play a huge role again in shaping the mindset of teenagers, whether that be related to body image or whether that related to be other emotional issues or hormonal changes and how to deal with things that adolescence brings in general. So if people are experiencing, signs like changes in sleep, I know personally I can vouch for the fact that as a high schooler, you cannot get more than 3 to 4 hours of sleep at least on the weekdays. And changes in eating patterns, which can sometimes be caused by these changes in sleep. And then there can be persistent sadness, seasonal sadness, shifts in behavior,
yeah,
shifts in mood. And this not only comes from within, this not only comes from bullies or external pressure, it can just be situational at times, right?
yes.
So I, for one, think that it's very important to speak out and to seek support and guidance. So, ma'am, it would be great if you could inform our listeners about the resources and support networks that they can access and who can help assist teenagers grappling with body image concerns.
So one thing, Adhiveer, what I have understood is always first, if you feel you are not in a good space, talk to your parents. That's the first point of contact. So talk to your parents that I understand that I may not get as much sleep as I would like it to be, but at the same time, it is affecting me and my performance. Right? So there something needs to be done. While in today's fast-paced life, teenagers do feel that I'm not going to get my sleep, especially the 10th graders, 12th graders, engineering students. My son is 19, so I can
Oh,
vouch for this. There are times where I continuously remind him that you remember that you need 9 hours of sleep. And he's like, I understand, but it's not the way, it's not as simple as it was in school. So we
yeah,
have odd hours. We are working till 1 in the night. We have clubs to be in. Clubs as in the working clubs, the practical labs and clubs that they go to.
right.
So where they are actually doing the work. So
Yeah,
when something like this happens, as parents, where we understand that, okay, our limit is still here. Beyond this, we don't know how to help our children. So then the next point is then look out for counselors and therapists who can help you. So what do counselors and therapists do? They try to understand your schedule. They try to understand what you need and what are the negative effects it is having on you. And
yeah,
then they plan certain things for you. They might suggest short breaks in between. They might suggest just calmly listening to music for 15 minutes. It
okay,
calms you down. It gives you that rest. Meditation helps. Certain music helps. Certain activities that can probably, I'm big time into gardening, which gives me a lot of peace. So my therapist might tell me, just spend some time in the balcony, sip your coffee there. So there are a lot of different ways to relax your mind. So therapists and counselors will come in, understand your pattern, understand your lifestyle, and then give you certain other solutions. Just take that
100%.
one step and whatever you feel comfortable, start educating yourself, take help from these experts, and make sure you're in good space.
Yeah. And this is something I'd really like to stress on because often teenagers feel very hesitant in just doing the small effort required to find these solutions because you feel like you'll be judged or you'll be shunned. But it's very important here to understand that this is something that happens to everyone. We shouldn't hesitate in seeking this help because it happens to everyone. Even the icons that you look up to, like Serena Williams, for example, she's
Yes.
faced criticism about her body throughout her entire playing career. And despite that, she's been probably the best female tennis player of all time. So, ma'am, can you mention some examples and inspiring stories of icons or even teenagers who have approached you personally and addressed these body image challenges and then move past that stage where they're able to turn this all around and where they're able to regain confidence and truly find themselves again to foster body positivity, self acceptance, and people who are sort of able to embrace this, realize that there is a shortcoming, and then they're able to working towards overcoming their inhibitions.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I remember this one girl child who was in her sixth grade, and she had attained her puberty early on. So she
Right.
had achieved. She became tall. And
Yeah.
she was tall like a 5'7" or a 5'8" height in grade 6 and 7. And I remember her struggling because all her friends were still not growing, and they had not yet started with their growth spurt or anything. And
Yeah.
she was already so tall. So she was really finding it very troublesome fitting into her chair, her bench, speaking to her friends, hugging them. And
Yeah.
everybody was teasing her because of the height that she already had. So somewhere she didn't want to go to school. She would cry out loud. She would howl every morning. Parents would take her to school, sometimes return because she would just not stop
Yeah.
crying. And she did not want to go to school. And that child came to me with her parents, and we worked around it. And I said, what do you feel most confident where your height can be a positive thing?
Yeah.
And she said, only if I play basketball. She just said it out of, nothing. Just said it. Only if I play basketball. And I said, how about playing basketball? She's like, no, no. And she was a very shy kind of a child who was not into sports at all. I said, you know what? Maybe you genuinely have an upper hand there. Why don't you give it a try? Just
Yeah.
go for like 5 class and see whether you can do it. She went and she was the captain in a couple of years
How
in her
wonderful.
school, and she was like, I would not have known this. So and the students then started seeing her as a winner.
Yeah.
Everybody forgot. Everybody became like, oh, this is something that is a blessing for her, blessing for
Right.
us because we have you in our team.
Right.
She became like a person most seeked after, like we want you, we want you, we want you. So
Yeah.
it became like such a 180-degree flip for her. So that is one of the
Right.
cases I will never forget, having her and, going through the journey. It was not easy for her, for sure. It wasn't
Yeah.
easy. But I love the fact that they were consistent in
Yeah.
working it out and going through all the assignments that were given to them, and she worked around it. So that was great with her. I'm going to give another. He was a boy, and he had a lot of pimples on his face.
Right.
So he faced a similar thing, you're
Yeah.
ugly, look at you, all the blood oozing out, sometimes white heads and the pus is
Mm.
coming out. So he had a very bad time,
Yeah.
but he was blessed with a mind like a calculator.
Wow.
So I encouraged him to participate in quizzes or in competitions, go outside school and compete.
Yeah.
Instagram was already in place. So how about doing some stunts on Instagram, asking people for questions and online, live sessions.
Yeah.
So do those kind of things. And he did so well. He's not continued Instagram because again, a shy child, but he found so much confidence because he found something bigger than the
Yeah.
cheeks, than the pimples that he was facing. So I say this in all my puberty workshops. Look for something that is bigger than just these body parts that you are not confident about.
Right.
So trust me, if this can be dealt well and done rightly, these children not only have positive body image, but they find something bigger in life.
Yeah.
And that drives their life and that drives their confidence, and pimples are long forgotten. Not that they've forgotten, like I don't want to do anything about it. It doesn't affect them as much.
Yeah. That
That's what
makes
I mean.
sense. And yeah, how wonderful. It's so heartening to hear about these stories because it seems like as if almost when you start perceiving yourself as a winner, everyone around you starts thinking of you as a winner. It's all about embracing yourself and honing your skills and then building upon that. So it's very heartening to hear about those,
Totally.
ma'am. And with that, I think we can bring an end to that segment of the podcast. I think it was wonderful to hear about these stories. It was very informative. So now, ma'am, we'll take a break
Thank you,
from the
Adhiveer.
deep conversations and go into some lightning rounds, some rapid fire questions. And you need to answer very quickly. All right. Just off the top of your
Okay,
head,
I will
whatever
do my
comes to you.
best.
All right. So, first question, your go to song whenever you need a boost in self confidence.
There is a song by One Direction. It's called What Makes You
Makes you
Beautiful.
beautiful. Yeah, that's very popular in
Yes.
my generation. Yeah. All right. If you could give your teenage self one piece of advice about body image, then what would it be?
It would be go fulfill your modeling dream.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Wonderful.
I wanted to become an air hostess. That time we used to call them air hostesses, and I wanted to model. I now don't want to be the air hostess, but definitely I still might. I might just fulfill that dream. But yes, to my teen
Yeah,
self,
you can go
I
for
would
it.
have said, go fulfill your modeling dream.
You can still go for it.
I can.
What's the weirdest body positivity hack that you've heard of?
No, I haven't come across that.
Right, ma'am.
But yeah, there are some myths which
Yeah,
are very, very weird,
I think so.
wherein I remember this one thing that I read about, that when you stand
Yeah.
and the gap between your thighs determine how healthy or how, how your body structure is.
Yeah, I
So
think even
if there
I've
is
heard
a
about that.
gap,
Yeah,
then you are good, your body structure is good. But if not, then you are considered fat.
yeah.
But actually, these structures are mostly based upon the the bone
Genetics.
structure
Yeah,
and the genetics rather than, the gap
yeah,
between the thighs.
definitely.
So that is something weird that I had
That
heard
makes sense.
about.
Yeah, and that really is testimony to the fact that it's very important to be well informed and not
Yes,
fall into these holes of misinformation that are
yes,
available on the internet. Not everything on social media is true.
yes.
Makes perfect sense. All right, ma'am. So, if your body had a mind of its own, then what would you say to it every morning?
It would say, "Good morning, beautiful. I am all set. Let's go get it."
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. What a positive start to the day. All right, ma'am. Lastly, who would be your poster boy or poster girl for positive body image? Someone that the listeners can look up to.
Yes, there is this Gujarati dancer on Instagram. Her name is Niyatii Nayak. She goes with the handle called Dancing Toes 0.20. So she is what positivity and amazing grace she has when she dances. So she's a Garba dancer. So she teaches
Oh,
all these
oh,
small steps, and then sometimes she's making roti, and she's the belan is like her dandiya, and she'll
oh.
dance, and she's amazing. So she would definitely be my poster
Oh,
girl.
I'll definitely go look her up. Thank you, ma'am. You've aced the rapid fire round. Now we'll move
Thank
on to the
you.
last segment of the podcast today, which is called Words of Wisdom. And here I'll just ask you to give one message or one mantra that you'd like the teen listeners to remember after listening to this podcast episode. And then whenever they recount such experiences, whenever they feel insecure about their own body, they can play that in their head again and start feeling positive.
I think what comes to my mind while you're asking me is, whenever there is a come back into their positivity or feel good about themselves, one line that they can always say is, it's either somebody telling them something negative or their own mind saying something
Yeah,
negative. So I'm going to go out and say it outright and say, you can always say, "Shut up, I know who I am." And
yeah.
then just smile, stand tall, and do what you're good at.
Definitely. I think, I agree with you completely that once you have that level of confidence in yourself, there's nothing in the world that can deter you or stand in your path. So thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much for this very enlightening conversation.
Thank you,
Thank you
Adhiveer.
so much for sparing your time. I know it isn't easy with everything that you have lined up. So before we
No,
say
no, it was
goodbye,
a pleasure speaking with you.
thank you.
You have covered so many different things in this little while. So I am very, very happy to be here with you and talking about a very important topic for preteens and teens.
Thank you so much, ma'am. So I've been through your Instagram and I know you've done workshops in many, many schools and you stay active online. You have a great online presence. So if you'd like to just tell our listeners how they can connect with you or how they can see the content you have and access these resources of yours.
So I think I'll just simply say my social media handles is my full name, which is Niyatii N Shah, and my website is called avarteeducation.com. So you can just find me, or just type my name on Google, and you'll be able to see all my content.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
So much
Adhiveer.
for your time.
Pleasure.
All right, Teenacity Squad, that's a wrap for today. Just a friendly reminder, you have got the superpower to thrive, shine, and conquer any hurdle that crosses your path. Stay awesome, stay tenacity, and we'll catch you on the flip side.